fresh, delicious, and nutritious blackberries growing in your garden. I'm going to go over 7 easy steps in getting started. Let's go. Step 1 of 7, select your location. 3 thoughts to consider in selecting your location is, does the area drain well? Do you have good access to water? And does that area have at least 6 hours of direct sunlight? Step 2 of 7, purchasing your blackberry plants. There's 4 questions to consider when making that purchase. The first question may be the most important, and it is, how many chill hours do you get in your area during the cooler season? There's so many blackberry plants you can choose from, and each one requires different chill hours. Another question to consider in purchasing your blackberry plants would be, are you interested in florid canes or primicanes? Basically, a florid cane, which a lot of people have those, is when your berry plant is growing, those first canes that grow are called primicanes. And then the second year, those primicanes are called florid canes. And that's when you're going to get the berries for the first time, is on the second year's growth on the florid canes. And then you have some new berries that's been out for a few years from the University of Arkansas, and these are called primicanes, like the primicane Traveler, the primicane Freedom, and I think the primicane 45. These plants can produce berries the first year on the primicanes, and then again on that same cane the second year, which then they will become florid canes as well. The last question in purchasing your blackberry plants would be, are you going to do the tissue cultures, which are the small plugs that would take longer to grow, but they're guaranteed to be virus-free from the nurseries that grows them? Will they be bare roots? This is just a bare root with a little stem on it. Or would it be plants that's already established in nursery pots? These are from the University of Arkansas, and they are called Ouachita. The Ouachita plants, in case you're interested in these require about 300 chill hours, and they are about a medium-sized berry. They're heat tolerant, and they grow about 4 to 5 feet tall. They spread between 3 to 4 feet wide. They are a all-around good tasting berry. The University of Arkansas actually bred these back in 2005, is to my understanding. Step 3 of 7 is installing your water system. Once again, I highly recommend a drip line system. So if you can come down here a little bit, I want to show you something. Now, we've already done a video on how to install a drip line system, and I will list the link below in the description box for you to go to that video at your convenience. But with a drip line system, different parts that you need hooked up to your water source here, your hose bib, and I like it to be under the soil so nothing is showing overhead, and it just goes up underneath, and you have your main line, and with that you have different elbows or T's or connectors, whatever direction you need to go in, and your drip line is up underneath. So it's a very easy method of watering, and it does very well. Step 4 of 7, will you be putting down ground cover of some sort, landscape fabric? I'll show you what we're doing. This is what we're going to be using here. We've already have put it down. We've used this for years. It works very well. It's thick. Water can go through, which is great. It's woven material, and it lasts a very long time. Step 5 of 7 is getting your ground ready. So one of the first things in getting your ground ready is to check your pH level. Blackberries like the soil to be slightly acidic, so somewhere between 5.5 and 6.5 is great. I've already checked mine. Mine's running around 6.8, so I'm going to have to put down a sulfur amendment to bring the pH down a little. Get some amendments in there. Keep in mind that blackberries do not like to be over fertilized, so you don't want to go overboard with nitrogen. You need some nitrogen, but just not in excessive amounts. but according to how your soil is, the fertility of your soil, if you have compost, that would be great to put it in. Just an all-around all-purpose fertilizer down in the hole would be great as well. But today we're on step 6 of 7, building a trellis for the blackberries.
I'm Paul, and we're going to be doing a 10-foot trellis for the blackberries today. I'm starting out with U-post. They are in the shape of a U. Unlike a T-post, the U-post are pre-drilled, and then I can put my eye bolts directly into them with nuts on either side. I'm using 1/4-inch hardware and stainless steel 1/8 inch cable, eyes with double nuts, turnbuckles to tension, the 1/8 inch cable clamps that I'll be using actually a bolt cutter, just not cutting all the way through, just compressing it to hold the cable, and then eye bolts double nutted on the other post. All of them will be turned lateral to the ground for the cable to attach to. Let's get started. The first post we're going to put in the middle here. Okay, so we have our 1/8 inch stainless steel wire and my coupling. I'm going to put the cable through one side of the coupling, and then I'm going to put it through the eye and back through the other side of the coupling, and I'm going to draw it short to where it looks like this. Now I'm going to take the bolt cutters, but I'm not going to use them as cutters, I'm going to use them as crimpers. And I'm just going to crimp down part way in 2 places. And I've got a nice strong connection. And now we'll go to the other end, put the turnbuckle and the eye on and measure for the other side. All right, now we're going to put our eye on the other end. And I have longer eyes with the thread simply because that was all they had at the hardware store when I went to pick them up. But they'll work just fine. All right, I'm going to use my turnbuckle to tighten it. Now, to extend the turnbuckle, they typically come fully compressed. You just screw them all the way out. One will go one direction and the other will go the other direction until they are fully extended like this. Put the hook in the eye, and I'm going to measure my cable. I'm going to leave myself a little bit of room. These are hardened steel cutters made for cutting wire. Make sure that all my braids are still back in order so that they will go through the coupling. I'm putting the connector on the cable. We're going to put it through the eye on the turnbuckle, put it back through the connector, and this time we're going to pull the excess to this end to where we can crimp it, and then we'll cut the excess off. Now, as far as crimping this, you could use, if you've got crimpers, they work good. That's what they're made for. I didn't have crimpers, but bolt cutters worked fine. Then, now we can turn the turnbuckle and it draws that cable nice and snug to hold the blackberry canes. I'm going to put 2 more cables up and we'll come back and look at it. I'm at 19, 38, and 50. So these will provide nice support for the blackberry canes.
Well, it's another day in this kitchen garden, and now it's time for us to transplant our thornless Ouachita blackberry plants. Let's go to work. So the first thing is to recheck the pH of our soil. Now, I had my soil tested at the Gainesville, University of Florida, and it came back at 7.3, which is way too alkaline for a vegetable garden or much less blackberries. So we're going to work on acidifying the soil, and I will bring you in close because one of the ingredients that we're going to be putting in the hole that we have dug to transplant our blackberries is peat moss. Now, peat moss naturally is on the acidic side, so I'm going to bring you in close and show you the pH of just peat moss that has been moistened with water. So as you see, the pH of this peat moss is around 5.4, and our blackberries need to be around 5.5 to no higher than 6.5 to do their best. Okay, so one of the ingredients is going to be the peat moss, of course, and then another ingredient is going to be the worm castings. I would prefer our finished compost, but right now it's not quite ready, so our go-to from there is the worm castings, which is a good amendment for the soil as well. All right, so we know we have to work on getting the pH of the soil down, and we're going to do that by several ways. Number one, putting peat moss in the hole. Number two, we're going to use this Espoma soil acidifier. Now, if you look on the bag here, if you can come in close a little bit here, look on the bag. It says safer than aluminum sulfate. So on the back of the bag, it says that if you use aluminum sulfate on a regular basis, then potentially you're at risk of having toxic levels of aluminum in your soil. So this is a safer way to go about it. They use gypsum and they use sulfur, elemental sulfur that is. So we'll be using this also to kind of help bring the pH down. This will not work immediately, but over time it's going to help bring the pH down, and that's what we need. But as soon as we put the peat moss in there, that pH is already down at a good acidic level. All right, and so another thing we're going to be doing, this is just an all-purpose organic fertilizer. It doesn't really list the NPK on here. We're just going to put a small amount in each hole because blackberries does not like to be over-fertilized. So therefore, you don't really have to put a lot of fertilizers in it. Just focus on getting the pH of the soil right and using compost if you have that available, and then kind of using what you have. So from there, we're going to start planting. All right, the first thing I'm going to do, I have peat moss that's already moistening in the wheelbarrow, and I'm just going to mix some of our native soil here with this peat moss to kind of balance it out. I have pre-dug my holes. They're about twice as wide and a little bit deeper. So I'm going to bring you in close so you can look at it. So now I'm going to be putting some of this peat moss and native soil that's been mixed together, put it in the hole. And I want to put my plant down in here to kind of see where I'm at. All right, a little bit more, because you don't want to bury the crown of the blackberry. And I'll be showing that to you in just a minute. Okay, that looks about right. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix in a good handful, several handfuls of this organic all-purpose fertilizer. It takes a while for organic fertilizers to break down. This is not anything that's going to be utilized by the plant right away. And just kind of mix that in good. And also, this is a soil acidifier. I am not going to measure it. I'm just guessing how much it might need. Just mix that in. Okay, that looks pretty good. So now I'm going to transplant it. All right, so now I've got the plant out of the pot. It looks pretty good. It's a little bit dry on the bottom, but you know, plants have a tendency to dry out quite quickly in pots, and I have been watering it faithfully. So we'll bring it around here. The canes are getting kind of long on it. This is those first year canes, prima canes. Oh, I want to show you the crowns. So if you can come in here, see this top part here? You don't want to bury this because this is the crown here, and you want to kind of keep that at soil level, which we won't have a problem because I didn't have the hole too deep. All right, so now at this point, all I'm going to do is just fill it in, backfill it with soil, and give it some water. Okay, so right now the plant is just sitting down there in the hole on top of the soil that we have put in, and I'm going to scatter and apply this worm castings all the way around the blackberry plant. Now I'm going to backfill it with the rest of the soil, and I'll bring you back in a minute. Okay, so we got it backfilled all the way up to the top, and it's important to press this down real good to get all the air pockets out. With this peat moss in here like this, it's nice and loamy and spongy. All right, so it is planted. So that's great. Now we're going to give it just a little bit of water, not a lot. This kind of help fill in where it might be dry, and also kind of help fill in any air pockets, kind of weigh it down a little bit. And then from there, these canes have not grown a lot yet. It's still a baby bush. And so I just wrapped it around the wire here. I'm going to need to have some twine or garden tape of some sort as they get longer to make sure they're secured to the wire. We got some leaves here as a mulch, and you can use straw, you know, use what you have available. But I'm just going to mulch it with these leaves that we raked up in the yard. And I'm going to leave open the middle right here where the crown's at, but everywhere else gets mulched. So I have 3 more to plant, and from here the care is quite minimum at this point. Just keeping an eye on it from time to time, making sure it's well hydrated and keeping the canes secured up. My very first blackberry bloom on my Ouachita blackberry bushes. So if you have liked this video, please take a moment to hit the like button and share, subscribe, and leave me a comment below. I would love to hear from you, and I'll see you in the next video.